The passing of the 19th Amendment in 1920, which gave women the right to vote, had a far-reaching impact beyond simply the issue of gender equality and women's full inclusion in the democratic process. Hello, I'm Lissa King, and for the next 5 minutes, I'll be talking about the fight that the women went through to gain the right to vote and the impact that the amendment had on the U.S. Now let's start with the beginning. Before the women's suffrage movement started, 15% of women worked in unsafe and unhealthy factories with miserable conditions and unwelcoming unions run by men. Another example of gender inequality is that before the 19th Amendment, married women could not own property and had no legal claim to any money they earned. Throughout history and even now, women are paid less than men for the same work. Next, we will be talking about the fight for rights. The fight started with the 1848 Seneca Falls Convention. Over 300 people attended it, some men but mostly women. After Seneca Falls, people started protesting everywhere to gain the right to vote. Now, Ben King, a very knowledgeable historian, will tell you about how World War I helped the final push to get women the right to vote.
In World War I, many women filled jobs left by the men who were fighting in the war. Afterwards, women were expected to go back to their old jobs. They had learned and gained knowledge from the men's jobs. During World War I, women were receiving better wages than ever. They did not want to return to how their life was before the war.
Thank you, Ben. Now, it was not always perfect during the suffrage movement. Some suffragists thought only white women should be allowed to vote. And even after they gained the amendment, women of color, immigrants, lower-income women, and women who were convicted of a crime could not vote. Now we are going to Topsy to talk about a few famous suffragists.
One important woman in the women's suffrage movement was Ida B. Wells. She established several notable women's rights organizations and was an early leader in the civil rights movement. Another woman was Alice Paul. She was a Quaker and an activist. She led women's rights parades and was jailed several times for organizing women into trade unions. Susan B. Anthony was another example of a very influential woman. She was a teacher and preached for equal pay for male and female teachers.
Thank you so much, Topsy. Let's talk about the women's suffrage protests. When people would protest, most of the time it resulted in harassment by men, and the police would do nothing about it. Bring your attention to the screen above me to watch a protest from 1910. It is very amazing to see everyone working together to gain the amendment. The passing of the 19th Amendment had a lasting effect on the U.S. and especially women, in good and bad ways. After the amendment, more women than ever were now empowered to pursue a broad range of political interests as voters. The 19th Amendment helped millions of women move closer to equality in all aspects of American life. Even a century after 1920, we are still affected by it today. After the amendment was passed, it inspired women to advocate for job opportunities, fair wages, education, birth control, and much more. Now back to Ben to tell us about the modern day problems that women run into.
Recently, after a lot of fighting, the U.S. women's soccer team here has finally got people to agree to pay them as much as they pay the men. It is surprising how long this took because the women's soccer team has a total of 4 World Cup titles. The men's team, on the other hand, has won none. The 19th Amendment had an impact on women in society, spanning from the new women in the U.S. to an uptick in school enrollment and increase in spending on schools. Right now, 20% of the U.S. Senate is female. Hopefully in 100 years, it'll be more like 50%. Thank you for watching. My name's Ben King, and I hope you enjoy your day.